If you've ever asked your aging parents about how they're doing and they immediately come back with an "I'm fine," when you know that they're struggling, this video is for you. So many times when you have these responses, there's many different reasons for that. But one of the main ones is that response can feel frustrating and can even feel a little bit dishonest. But most of the time, there's something much deeper behind those two words. Hi, and welcome to our channel. My name is Vitali. And I'm so glad you're here. I'm so excited to share more information with you about this playlist that we're making about how to have this conversation with your aging loved ones about becoming okay with receiving help and overcoming some of the objections that typically family members run into when they have or when they start having these conversations about aging and just issues that are going on. So we've been doing in-home care for over 20 years. We started in 2003, so we have a long professional track record of helping families not only actually receive the care that we provide, professional caregivers that come in and help with things, but helping families to have these conversations and allowing some wisdom to be inserted into how to have this conversation so that it is more productive. We've seen a lot of this where adult children see the warning signs, they're seeing what's going on. The aging loved one is insisting that everything's fine. There's nothing to worry about and everything is going to be just okay. Most of the time when we see this, the "I'm fine" and sort of like what we would maybe look at and go, man, mom's in denial, right? It isn't denial. It really is actually protection. Let me kind of get into what I mean by this. So number one fear that people have is losing their independence, right? So seniors, as they age, that is the biggest fear that they face. So if they lose their driving privileges, there is a concern that I'm stuck at home now, or I have to depend on other people to get me to the grocery store, to the doctor's appointment, and kind of whatever, right? Sometimes we maybe feel like, hey, it's 8 o'clock in the evening and I want something and I'm just going to drive and get it. There's a certain sense of independence that not having that vehicle, not having that ability, even if that's not your normal routine to go somewhere to get something at 8 o'clock in the evening, having the ability to do so still plays a long way into helping you feel like you're a fully independent person. So independence is really deeply tied to our identity, to who we are. You think about this, in the US, every household, really as many as adults that live there, there's as many cars parked in that driveway. Because none of us want to be driven around by other people and none of us want to drive other people around. I mean, it's just kind of part of the fabric of our society. And so that independence is really a big driver for a lot of things. Most seniors, most older adults believe that admitting difficulty equals loss of control. It means giving up something to someone else and someone else is gonna get to call the shots. And then losing control equals losing their home, right? So it's sort of a stair-step process. So slowly they're gonna become a nobody, right? Because they're not able to control their own domain, their own things that they're doing. So for many parents, saying "I'm fine" is a way to protect the life, the current functioning that they still have, right? It's a way to sort of say, I like having this. I like having my own space. I like having my own way of doing things. I like having the ability to do what I want. Okay, so number two, they don't want to be a burden. The independence factor is a big factor. I don't want to have other people control me or do things for me or have to rely on other people to do this. But I don't want to be a burden. You know, again, in our society, self-sufficiency is such a high value, right? I can do things for myself. I can do my own things. And so a lot of people even talk about how they raise their kids to be independent, right? They taught them how to be self-sufficient. And so the idea of needing help or accepting help feels very uncomfortable, feels very anti-independence. It feels like, well, all these things that I valued for most of my life, being self-sufficient, doing things for myself, now I'm sort of giving that up and now I'm in favor of being helped by other people. So what they might be thinking is that my daughter, has her own life. She's got her own things going on. She's very busy. I don't want to add to her list of things that she is responsible for. I don't have to occupy more of her mental space because she has to do things or worry about me. I don't want to create problems for them. I don't want them to have extra worry and stress because of me. So sometimes parents hide their struggles because they love their children. They're literally trying to protect their children from the stress and the worry that might be there if they let you into their actual internal struggle with the independence they're trying to hold together. It's interesting, I actually remember my relationship with my wife in some of our earlier years where I had this issue, I had this struggle of actually sharing difficult things with my wife, difficult struggles of life, struggles in business, because I felt like, man, I'm already stressed by this. I don't want to dump the stress into her lap. I don't want her to have to worry about this. So this is very similar to this scenario that I'm talking about. Like, all of us want to kind of contain the stress, and it's a coping mechanism. It's like, I don't want to tell anybody because I don't want other people to have to carry my burden. It's already bad enough that I'm carrying a burden. And so I learned through that process that it's actually like I was isolating myself from her, from my wife, because I was sort of keeping things, and it was affecting me, right? Because I was a different person, because that stress, it shows up, it definitely makes itself known periodically. And so, but like, you can carry that burden together. And so us as adult kids, we actually definitely want to be included, and we want to have that conversation, want to be able to help our aging loved ones, but understand where they're coming from and why sometimes saying I'm fine is a great way for them to mask and not let you in, because to let you in, they feel like they're going to dump this on you. Reason number 3 is because the gradual decline feels normal. The idea being that, like, if you throw a frog into hot water, it's going to hop out, right? Because it's a big change. But if you put it in there while the pot is slowly heating up, it may not notice. And so our new normal can feel like it's always been that way. So somebody walking around their space, grabbing onto furniture and walls, which is not normal, but to them will maybe feel normal because they've now been doing it for 6 months. It's just a way that they've adapted to their environment, and so that's what they're doing. So decline typically happens slowly, right? There isn't, I mean, unless somebody has a catastrophic fall and a fracture, usually the decline is very subtle and very slow. So the small changes feel normal as they happen over time, and so they just kind of adjust, and they're they kind of maybe do little things like holding on to furniture, or maybe they're using their walker more, which is actually not a bad thing, and so they'll walk slower. Maybe they're forgetting some things. Maybe they're not quite remembering as well. And the thing is, if you're not interacting with them as often, you won't necessarily pick up on those deficits, because those deficits, I'm talking about the memory loss, right? Because unless you're in and you spend more time, then you're like, man, I just had that conversation 2 minutes ago. That question just came back up again. And so a lot of times, like after the holidays, after Thanksgiving or Christmas, we will get calls, and because family members, when they spend an extended period of time, a couple of days together with their loved one, all of a sudden, like, man, I actually thought mom was doing way better. Like, she's really struggling, because they're picking up on some of these things that when you spend more time with a person, you're kind of picking up that there's a cognitive decline. Maybe skipping activities, maybe not doing the things with friends, maybe not playing cards or not playing, some of those, doing more social activities, partly because the conversations have become weird. Can't keep up with the conversation. I'm forgetting what's going on. Think about even watching a show or watching a movie. Watching a movie, you have to retain that information from the beginning of the movie as the tension builds, to feel good about what happens in the end, because you knew what happened in the beginning. Somebody that's slowly developing dementia, and they're starting to have a hard time keeping track of the sequence of events in a movie, well, it's just a bunch of scenes and bunch of action potentially in that movie, but can't really keep up. So that could kind of sneak up and be a little subtle. So what feels like a big change to you, if you're coming around and seeing them after a couple of months of being away, may just seem like a normal, gradual new normal for them. Reason number 4 is pride. So, and this is something like, think about that. Like, we all have, pride can have a weird connotation when you say pride. I'm so proud. No, but like pride in our abilities and our self-sufficiency. It can be a healthy thing. When people live full, capable adult lives, those things are things that they should be proud of. And so it can feel very demeaning or diminishing to let go and to come down from being the person that maybe was helping others and was playing that role to now thinking about even allowing somebody else to come in and help us. So accepting help can feel like losing dignity in that kind of a scenario. So again, pride isn't arrogance. It isn't like some chest thumping like I am, I can do whatever. I can take care of all things. I can take care of myself. No, it's understanding that human beings have God-given dignity, and that gives us a sense of pride of, we're good at things, we accomplish things, we struggle too, right? Like human beings, we're a mixed bag, but not to diminish somebody's life story and what they've been able to accomplish and what they've done, including raising their family and maybe a career and community involvement and those kinds of things. And so now when it comes time to have a conversation about receiving help, it could feel like I'm just like losing it, right? Like I can't do the things that I as a person have been good at. And so that's where that you have to be careful with understanding that psychology and understanding a little bit what they're feeling. So what does this mean for you? So instead of arguing with the I'm fine and confronting and saying, what do you mean you're fine? You're not fine. Look at these things and you can talk about the signs, right? So instead of doing that, stay calm, ask questions, think empathetically, think about, put yourself in their shoes and how would you feel? What are some of the emotions that they're likely experiencing? And then think about and focus on support instead of control. I am here I just want to help you. I just want to make sure you're okay. And so that tone of your voice can really either be in that support channel or it could be in that control channel where the tone is going to be different and they're going to pick up on that very, very easily. Questions like, is there anything that feels harder than it used to? And then allow them to actually fill in that answer, fill in that space, fill in that void when you ask that question, right? Because it's not a yes or no. You're asking them what's become more difficult. What would make things easier for you, right? Allow them the creativity, allow them to drive instead of you prescribing, right? Because none of us want to have prescriptions done for us. We would rather be in charge of our own ship, of our own journey, right? And so this way you're allowing them to actually, with some prompting, right? Which is, when you think about this, like great professionals, whether it's maybe a therapist or maybe it's a financial professional, the best ones are not the ones where they sit you down and they just say, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this. Actually, the best ones are the ones that will ask you and will allow you to elaborate and say, well, what's important to you? What are your fears? What are your goals? And they'll go through and let you fill that space. And then from there, they will actually help lead you through conversations by asking you a bunch of different questions. And then, like, my experience has been, those people are so good that in that space, all of a sudden, like, I am clear in my mind. I know what I want to do. I know where I want to go. So I hope this video helped you to just understand why people as they age. And it's not just people as they age, right? This is an idea, like we talk to our friends, we see somebody in church and we're like, hey, how are you doing? And what do they say? Well, oh, I'm great, right? And people have this, I've heard this both ways. Well, like, oh, it's always so great. Like, what is it really? Well, yes and no, right? We all have our struggles and we all have our bad days and maybe bad months with whatever it may be. Maybe it's health issues or whatever else. But in that informal conversation in the lobby when somebody says, hey, Bob, how you doing? It's been a while, I haven't seen you. Is that the appropriate place to go, well, you know what, my life is a mess, right? Or is the polite response, hey, I'm fine, and then only is it when we invite that person into a deeper conversation, right? Maybe it's like, hey, we haven't seen each other in a long time, let's grab lunch or let's grab coffee. In that more intimate setting, we can maybe actually go a little bit deeper, right? So don't be surprised by the, hey, I'm fine, I'm doing fine, because it is the polite conversation way of just not burdening, not dumping on you, even though you see and you can tell that there's issues going on. So I want to invite you into that conversation so that you don't come in there and you don't, well, it's not fine. What about this? What about that? No, like allow them to have their dignity, and then be able to sit down with them and build that trust and be able to say, hey, what would help you, or what things are a struggle? Like I can tell that maybe some things are a little bit harder than they used to be. And so that conversation, not only is it way more productive, but it's actually building a lot of trust, because you're going to have more than one of these conversations. And so that conversation builds trust. So the next one is going to be even more productive. And now you become a trusted part of their inner circle, if that's the best way I could put it, right? Because just because we're family doesn't mean that there's a high level of trust. That trust always has to be cultivated, and it's cultivated over and over. And so that is your role, is to be able to help them do that. Anyway, if this was helpful, thank you for being here. Comment, share, subscribe, and we will see you in the next video.